"So, how'd you do on your exams, Amy?" That was my Uncle Mark. His son, my cousin Kevin, was with him. "Kevin said he's got no problem getting into a top-tier school," he continued. "How about you?" The familiar voice snapped me out of my daze. I opened my eyes wide, staring in disbelief at the person in front of me. Seeing my reaction, Uncle Mark looked a little annoyed. "What's with that face? Your cousin may slack off sometimes, but he's a smart kid. A good university is a piece of cake for him. You, on the other hand, you always look like you have good grades, but who knows if you just cheat? You'd better not make a fool of yourself on the real deal." I didn't even bother to answer him. Instead, I touched my own face. When the explosion hit, I had been kneeling on the ground, so the first thing I felt was the searing pain on my face. "My daughter's grades have always been there for everyone to see," my mom snapped. "Cut the crap." I took in the scene, then glanced at the time on the computer screen. It was real. I had been reborn. In my last life, after the college entrance exams, my uncle had done the exact same thing. He came to our house, strutting around and bragging that Kevin had already checked his answers online and was a shoo-in for a great university. I had always been at the top of my class and was more than prepared for the exams. Just an hour after the test ended, I had already estimated my total score. It was high enough for Harvard or MIT, but I wanted to be low-key, so I didn't say that. I just told everyone I'd messed up and my score was just okay. I never thought my uncle would actually take my words to heart. He went around telling everyone how badly I'd done, and how well his son had. Then the official scores were released. The girl who supposedly bombed the test, me, had scored a 699, and was accepted early into an Ivy League school. Meanwhile, his brilliant son had scored less than 300, barely enough to get into community college. I thought my uncle would be furious. Instead, he showed up at our door with bags of gifts to congratulate me. A complete change of pace. "I always knew you had it in you, Amy. I was right about you. That cousin of yours is a good-for-nothing. He'll never amount to anything. You did so well. In a few days, let's go tell your dad at his grave. He'd be so happy to hear it from heaven." My dad had died of cancer 5 years earlier. Even if my uncle hadn't suggested it, I was already planning to share the good news with him. So we quickly set a time and went back to our hometown together to visit his grave. When I got to my dad's tombstone and had just lit the incense, I heard a massive explosion. The blast sent me and my father's headstone flying. I landed hard on the ground, coughing up mouthfuls of blood. Hearing the explosion, my uncle finally rushed over. When he saw the mangled state I was in, he didn't try to help. He just threw his head back and laughed. "Serves you right, you little show-off. Hope you die," he cackled. "How could you possibly score better than my son? You must have cheated." He just stood there, watching me bleed to death. When my mom found out, having already lost her husband, the loss of her daughter was too much to bear. She lost the will to live and killed herself. The scholarship money that was supposed to be mine was seized by my uncle's family. He used it to send Kevin to study abroad. Thinking about all this, I wanted to rip the disgusting mask off Mark's face. But just tearing up his face wouldn't be enough. I wanted him to feel the same pain I had. I forced a couple of laughs. "Oh, not at all, Uncle. I was just thinking about my own results. I feel like I did just okay, probably about the same as usual." The smile froze on Mark's face. Same as usual for me meant first in my class every single time. It meant I'd done great. You can never tell with these big exams," he grumbled. "Every year, some people get exposed for what they really are. Don't get your hopes up." I didn't want to waste my breath on him, so I just nodded vaguely. Right, you're absolutely right. I did terribly. I'll probably just end up at a community college. Your son will definitely get into an Ivy." Mark didn't catch the sarcasm in my voice. Instead, he puffed out his chest, looking pleased. "Don't you worry. We're all family. When your cousin makes it big, he'll pull you up with him." He left with his head held high. My mom was so angry her chest was heaving. "I'd like to see how that pea-brained Kevin gets into an Ivy League school," she muttered. Then she looked at me worried. "Amy, how did you really do? You're always number one. Please don't tell me you slipped up on the big one." Ever since my dad passed, my uncle had constantly bullied me and my mom. If I really had bombed the exams, we would be ridiculed relentlessly. Our family's reputation would be in tatters. I patted her hand to reassure her. "Don't worry, Mom. I already checked the answers. An Ivy is in the bag." My mom finally breathed a sigh of relief. It would be a while before the scores were officially released. My classmates were all making plans to go on trips together, But I bought a bus ticket back to my hometown and went alone. When my dad got sick, we spent every penny we had and went deep into debt. In the end, we couldn't even afford a proper burial plot in the city. We had to take his ashes back to our hometown and bury them near the ancestral graves. I shouldered a hoe and took a small path up the mountain, avoiding everyone. Under the cover of night, I dug up my father's grave. I knew my dad's spirit wouldn't blame me. This time, I was going to make sure Mark's family got what they deserved. When I got back to the city, I found a part-time job at a boba shop to start earning money. Although I knew I'd get a big scholarship when I was accepted to Harvard or MIT, I planned to save that money for a rainy day. I wanted to earn my own tuition and living expenses during the summer break. I purposely found a boba shop far from my house, so no one I knew would see me. But somehow Mark's family still found out. Soon enough, it was the day the scores were released. I asked my manager for time off and went home to check my results. When I walked in, I found Mark and Kevin sitting on our sofa. "What are you guys doing here?" My expression was anything but welcoming. My uncle ignored my tone and sidled up to me with a greasy smile. "Your cousin is about to go to college, and I hear all college students need a laptop. As his older sister, you should chip in, right? You've been working lately. How about you take out your salary and buy your brother a computer?" I rolled my eyes, amazed at their shamelessness. Back when my dad was sick, Mark had lent us a few $1,000s. Ever since, he'd used that small favor as an excuse to cause trouble for us at every turn. Even though my mom and I had already paid him back, he still showed up from time to time, acting like we owed him our lives. "Uncle, I think you're confused," I said flatly. "I'm Kevin's cousin, not his mother. Why would I be the one buying him a laptop? Did he lose his dad too?" My words left Mark speechless for a moment. He frowned at me. "What kind of attitude is that? Besides, you won't get into a good university anyway. Kevin's going to a top-tier school. He needs the computer more than you. When he's successful, you'll benefit too." "I don't need to benefit from anyone, and who benefits from whom is still up in the air," I shot back. "Kevin's grades have always been at the bottom of the barrel. What gives you the confidence to think he'll get into a great school? I seriously don't get how your family can be so shameless. How dare you come here and bully a widow and her daughter all the time? You'd better watch out, or my dad will send a bolt of lightning down from heaven to strike you." I was already irritable from a long day at work, and knowing full well what our scores were, I didn't hold back. Kevin, being younger, couldn't take it. His face flushed red, and he shot up from the sofa, pointing a finger at my nose. "Amy, what are you so arrogant about? The scores aren't even out yet. Stop being so cocky. So what if your grades are usually good? Who knows how you got them? The real test is the college exam." "My grades are usually bad because I'm low-key and don't want to reveal my true strength," he blustered. I almost laughed out loud. In just a few minutes, the scores would be posted, and he'd be eating his words. "All right, son, let's not waste our breath on her," Mark said, pulling Kevin back. "Once you get into a D1 school, we'll see how arrogant she is then." He turned to leave. "Don't go," I called out, stepping forward. "The scores will be out any second. I'm waiting for you to prove me wrong." My uncle turned and shot me a venomous glare, then exchanged a look with Kevin. I had pissed them both off, and they were dying to sit back down and watch me fail. I sat on the sofa, playing on my phone. When the time came, I'd just need to enter my exam ID to check. I already knew my score, so I wasn't nervous at all. Kevin, on the other hand, was a nervous wreck. He couldn't even focus on his phone, constantly looking up at the clock. "It's time. You can check now. Hurry up and log in." The moment the clock struck, my mom anxiously urged me to close my game and check my score. "The site is lagging. It's been loading forever." "Damn it, what's wrong with this stupid internet? Why won't it load?" Kevin muttered, jabbing at his screen. "Amy, you should smash this piece of crap router. Can't even check a stupid score. What's going on? It's not coming up. Maybe you should try a different way?" my mom said, ignoring him and staring intently at my screen. "It's here. It's here." The next second, my score popped up. My mom stared at my phone, her voice rising in an excited shriek. "Just like in my last life. A 699. An Ivy League school is a sure thing. Honey, you're amazing. Mom is so proud of you." My mom hugged me tight, tears of joy streaming down her face. "What's all the shouting about? What was the score?" Mark grumbled. Now my mom could finally hold her head high. "Amy scored 699. Kevin, what did you get? Don't tell me you couldn't even beat my daughter." My uncle and Kevin were frozen in place, their smiles wiped clean off their faces. $6.99? Are you kidding me? I simply held my phone out in front of them so they could see for themselves. Humph. So what? Is a 600 something that hard to get? Kevin sneered. So what did you get? Let's see it. Just as I finished speaking, Kevin's score appeared on his screen. I seized the opportunity and snatched his phone. Wow, Kevin, you did great. You got a whole third of my score. Impossible. You're lying. How could I have only gotten 200 and something? Kevin roared, refusing to believe it. I handed the phone back to him. See for yourself. If that's not your score, is it mine? He snatched the phone back, his eyes practically bulging out of their sockets as he stared at the screen. Impossible. How could I have only scored in the 200s? That's not my score. No, son, this must be a mistake. It must be someone with the same name. This can't be your score, my uncle stammered. I let out a short, sharp laugh and pointed at the exam ID number at the bottom of the screen. You can have the same name, but you can't have the same ID number. Kevin checked his ID card against the number on the screen several times. Finally, as if all the strength had been drained from his body, he collapsed onto the sofa. Impossible. Son, maybe they graded your test wrong? How could you score so low? The papers must have been graded incorrectly. Uncle Mark clutched the phone, looking for anyone and anything to blame but his own son. Haha, I get it. Kevin suddenly shot up from the sofa, his expression one of tragic defiance. It was a setup. I threatened the system and they wanted to destroy me. He pounded his chest dramatically. 10 years of hard work. A gift to you, the establishment. You win. The moment the words left his mouth, Mark raised his hand and slapped him hard across the face. You little bastard. So this is your top-tier school? I'll kill you today. I'll teach you to lie to us. It's not my fault. Someone behind the scenes must have sabotaged me. My score was tampered with. Mark rolled his eyes, then turned to me, his expression suddenly fawning. Amy, you really didn't disappoint your uncle. I knew you could do it. Your dad's spirit in heaven will be so pleased. How about this? In a couple of days, I'll drive you back to our hometown. You can tell your dad the good news yourself. I gave him a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Sure. And let's have Kevin come along. He should go to the ancestral graves and pay his respects. He's the eldest grandson of our generation, after all. The ancestors will surely bless him. Mark was surprised I agreed so easily. He grinned from ear to ear, then punched Kevin on the arm. See? Look how thoughtful your sister is. A few days later, I packed my things early in the morning and headed back to our hometown. The old house hadn't been lived in for a long time and was a bit run down. After I arrived, I tidied up a bit, boiled some water, and made Mark a cup of tea. Seeing how sensible I was acting, he started to get cocky again. In a bit, you go talk to your dad at his grave. Kevin and I will head to the ancestral plot. We'll split up. I nodded and sat down beside him, taking out the milk and bread I'd brought. After a quick bite, we'd head out. Just as we finished packing and were about to head up the mountain, Mark's brow furrowed. Hang on, I need to use the bathroom. Before he could finish his sentence, he bolted for the outhouse. He came out, but before he even made it to the courtyard gate, he ducked back inside. Uncle, did you eat something bad? Are you still able to go? I asked. If he was stuck in the bathroom today, all my preparations would have been for nothing. I can go. Just give me a minute. Unfortunately for him, I had given him an extra strength laxative. An elephant would have been laid out for days. He didn't stand a chance. Sure enough, he hadn't taken 2 steps before his stomach started churning again. This time he couldn't pretend anymore. Amy, why don't you go on ahead? I need a little more time. Uncle, I'll go with Kevin. I know where the ancestral graves are. I can take him. He was in so much pain it felt like a knife was twisting in his gut. He would have agreed to anything. A muffled okay came from inside the outhouse. The path up the mountain was winding and muddy. Kevin always complained about how difficult the walk was, and rarely came more than once a year. If his dad hadn't forced him to come this time because of his terrible grades, he wouldn't have bothered. Kevin, just keep walking straight for about half a mile, then turn left. You'll see the ancestral plot, I said. Make sure you pray properly to the ancestors. Ask them to help you get into a good college. Kevin shot me an impatient look but didn't say anything, just stomped ahead. I took another small path and circled around behind him. When he reached the grave, Kevin took out the incense and paper money he'd brought and lit them. As the flames caught, They silently ignited the fuse I had placed nearby. A deafening BOLM ripped through the air, startling everyone in the vicinity. What was that noise? Did something explode? Probably someone's septic tank. It's getting hot out. All that crap builds up, of course it's gonna blow. What septic tank? The explosion was on the mountain, not here. Meanwhile, Mark, still in the outhouse, heard the sound and knew instantly it wasn't a septic tank. It was my dad's grave. He hastily pulled up his pants and rushed out. Grabbing the first villager he saw, he asked, "Did you hear an explosion on the mountain?" The villager looked at him confused. "What's an explosion on the mountain got to do with you?" "Probably just someone setting off firecrackers." "Definitely not firecrackers." "What kind of firecracker is that loud?" "My son and my niece are still up there. I have to go check." Hearing this, the villagers started to take it seriously. A few of the more helpful ones went up the mountain with him to see what was going on. Mark pretended he didn't know what happened, but as soon as they were on the mountain, he led everyone straight toward my dad's grave, eager to see my dead body. "My brother's grave is just ahead. Let's go check on my niece first," he said, the corner of his mouth twitching into a smile he couldn't suppress. "She scored over 600 on her exams. She's about to go to an Ivy League school. Nothing can happen to her." He was already imagining my corpse. As they approached my dad's grave, they saw a blackened body on the ground. The clothes and hair were burnt away, leaving what looked like a human-shaped piece of charcoal. Miraculously, the person wasn't dead yet. Their chest was still faintly rising and falling. Mark let out a piercing scream. "Amy, are you okay?" He rushed to the charred body, his eyes a mixture of confusion, terror, and a sliver of triumph. Tears welled up instantly as he dropped to his knees with a thud. "Amy, open your eyes and look at your uncle. How did this happen to you?" Mark delivered the performance of his life, kneeling before the charred remains and sobbing uncontrollably. "Mark, stop crying. We need to get her to a hospital. She might still be saved." "Yeah, she's still breathing. She's alive," the others urged. But his goal was for me to die. How could he let them take me to a hospital and save me? He pretended to be so overcome with grief that he didn't even have the strength to stand up. "Amy, it's all my fault. I'm so sorry." The onlookers couldn't bear to watch. I was tired of his act, too, so I simply walked out from behind a tree. "Uncle, what are you crying about?" "I'm right here." Mark's sobs caught in his throat. He looked at me as if he'd seen a ghost, his face contorting in terror. He stumbled backward and fell on his butt, a trembling finger pointing at me. How are you here?" I looked at him innocently. I just finished paying respects to my dad, and was coming to see the ancestral graves. "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" "Ancestral graves? Isn't this your dad's grave?" A horrifying thought began to form in his mind. The next second, my words confirmed his deepest fear. "My dad's grave is over there. This is the ancestral plot. Uncle, you must have remembered wrong." He finally understood. The charred body on the ground wasn't me. It was Kevin. "Kevin, my son," he shrieked, throwing himself onto Kevin's body and calling his name over and over. But the person on the ground was already breathing his last. I walked over, feigning panic. "Kevin, what happened? Why is he burned like this?" "It must have been the firecrackers you bought." Mark immediately tried to shift the blame to me, his eyes filled with a murderous rage, as if he wanted to tear me apart. "Amy, you vicious little snake. That's your own cousin. How could you be so cruel?" I took a step back. "Uncle, how can you be so cruel to me? What reason would I have to do this to Kevin? Besides, I just bought regular firecrackers. Even if they exploded, they would only injure someone. To be burned like this, unless I bought several tons of them and piled them here." The villagers around us thought what I said made sense. The explosion had been powerful enough to level the tombstone. It was definitely not something ordinary firecrackers could do. Yet firecrackers couldn't have this much power. It must have been something else. This is terrifying. Could it be a bomb? "We should call the police. Let them investigate." I nodded. "Uncle, Kevin was hurt unjustly. We have to let the police find the person who did this. I want to see who could be so vicious as to bomb someone's ancestral grave." With that, I immediately dialed 911. Mark couldn't stop me even if he tried. "Uncle, we need to get Kevin to the hospital. He might still be saved." My reminder finally snapped him back to the reality of his dying son. He tried to lift Kevin, but the boy's body was a mess of charred flesh. The intense pain jolted Kevin awake, and a weak voice escaped his throat. "Dad, save me, it hurt so much." This time, Mark's tears were real. Son, Dad's taking you to the hospital right now. You're going to be okay. But just as he stood up to head down the mountain, the laxative kicked in again. His stomach clenched and he instantly lost control. A thick, foul stench filled the mountain air. Everyone instinctively looked at him. Mark, you're a grown man. How are you still crapping your pants? It stinks. It smells like something died. Mark's face went from grief to utter humiliation. But he couldn't worry about that now. Getting Kevin to the hospital was the most important thing. With every step he took, the pain in his stomach intensified. Before he even made it halfway down the mountain, he couldn't take it anymore and passed out. I called an ambulance and had them both taken away. When my mom heard that the ancestral grave had been bombed, she rushed over. So did my aunt, Kevin's mother. When she arrived, she found Kevin burned to a crisp and my uncle having soiled himself. She nearly fainted. After listening to my description of events, my mom immediately sensed something was off. She pulled me aside. I remember your dad's grave being on the mountainside. How did it end up on the peak? My dad was buried back home, and my mom and I only visited once or twice a year. Mark and Kevin had it even worse. They hadn't been there since the burial and had no memory of the exact location of my dad's grave. After the scores came out, I had immediately bought a ticket back home, dug up my dad's headstone, and swapped it with one at the ancestral plot. When Kevin saw the name on the stone, he thought he was at the right place, but he was actually at my dad's booby-trapped grave. When he lit the offerings, the flames ignited the explosives Mark had prepared. You must be remembering wrong, I said firmly. Dad's grave has always been at the peak. You're mistaken. Seeing how certain I was, my mom didn't press the issue. Just then, Mark woke up and started demanding to see his son. Kevin is still in surgery. How could you let this happen to him? My aunt screamed, pounding Mark's chest with her fists. Mark didn't understand either. He had meant to kill me. So how did Kevin end up getting blown up? He shifted all the blame onto me, pointing at me with gritted teeth. When I was in the bathroom at home, it was Amy who insisted on taking Kevin with her. How could you not look after your own brother? This is all your fault. My aunt turned her furious gaze on me. You little jinx. I knew you were bad luck for my son. How could you do this to him? If anything happens to my boy, I'll kill you. How dare you speak like that? My mom shot back, not backing down. Kevin is an adult. It was his own bad luck. Who can he blame? My daughter did nothing, and you're pinning this huge crime on her. Is there any justice in this world? Uncle, don't be so angry, I interjected calmly. Aren't you curious who really hurt Kevin? The person who planted the bomb is the real culprit. At the mention of a bomb, Mark's eyes darted around nervously. What bomb? Where would a bomb come from? I think it was the firecrackers you bought that hurt your brother. I held up my hands. You don't have to believe me, but you have to believe the police. They'll be here soon, and we'll find out what really happened. The police took the explosion very seriously. They immediately sent officers to the gravesite to investigate and quickly found some clues. We found some unburnt gunpowder under the tombstone. An officer told us at the hospital. It's not the same kind of powder found in firecrackers. It looks like someone deliberately planted it. It must be Amy. She's the one who hurt my son. Mark immediately started shouting, trying to pin the blame on me. Officer, arrest her. Get justice for my son. Uncle, you need evidence to make accusations, I said coolly. You say I planted the bomb. Do you have any proof? Mark glared at me with hatred. It has to be you. Otherwise, why would you be the one to suggest Kevin come back home with you? You two don't even get along. You must have been planning revenge on him. It was true that I had deliberately asked Kevin to come back with me, but that was hardly evidence. It couldn't prove a thing. I just saw how badly Kevin did on his exams and thought maybe the ancestors could bless him. Who knew? Someone would be so wicked as to plant a bomb. The police also found Mark's accusations to be weak and didn't believe his one-sided story. Just then, a group of people burst into the room and surrounded Mark, all talking at once. Mark, what happened to your son? How could that unlucky kid blow up the ancestral grave? Yeah, my mom is buried there. You've disturbed her peace. You'd better give us an explanation. I just went to look. The tombstone is gone, the grave is leveled. It's going to cost a lot of money to fix. Bombing the ancestral grave was a huge deal. I had immediately contacted all our relatives and told them the news. They all thought it was Kevin who did it, so they came straight to Mark to demand answers. It wasn't my son who did it. My son is a victim too. He's still in surgery right now. It was Amy. It must have been her. She wanted to hurt my son. My poor boy. How could this happen to you? If you die, I don't want to live either. Mark wailed pitifully, tumbling off the hospital bed in a dramatic display of despair. Seeing him like this, the relatives were moved. They immediately turned on me. You wretched girl. Kevin was your brother. How could you do something so cruel? No wonder she lost her dad. She has no upbringing. I looked at this group of people with cold eyes. When my dad was sick, they all avoided us, terrified I would ask them for money. After my dad passed, they didn't even come to his funeral. I knew very well that these people didn't care about so-called family ties. They only cared about what they could gain. To them, Mark was more valuable than me, so of course they would side with him. I sighed and spoke slowly. When I heard the ancestral grave was bombed, I thought that as a member of this family, I should contribute to having it repaired. But since you all have this attitude, then forget it. I'll save the money and use it to buy my dad a nice plot in the city and move his grave back. Hearing this, the people in the room fell silent. Fixing the grave would cost a lot of money, and their main reason for coming was to get that money. Now an opportunity was right in front of them, and they had just let it slip away. Don't listen to her. Where would a broke girl like her get any money? Mark shouted. Her dad died and left her with a mountain of debt. My exam scores are out, I said calmly. The school gave me a scholarship, and in a little while, when the acceptance letter from Harvard arrives, I'll get even more scholarship money. So where do you think I'm getting the money from? These relatives were only now finding out about my exam results. They had kids of their own and knew exactly what a school like Harvard meant. Their expressions toward me changed instantly. Who is Kevin's family? A nurse called out, walking into the room. Mark immediately rushed forward. I'm his father. Is my son okay? His condition is very critical. You need to sign these forms immediately. We'll do everything we can. The nurse held out a critical condition notice. Mark held the pen but didn't dare to sign. I'm not signing. You have to save my son. He's about to go to college. He'll be fine. He threw himself on the floor, kicking and screaming, demanding the doctors save Kevin. But the doctors could only do their best. They couldn't bring people back from the dead. The nurse kept urging him to sign and not to waste time, but he wouldn't listen. Just then, another nurse came out, her expression grim. The patient couldn't be revived. He has passed away. Hearing this, a primal, animalistic howl tore from Mark's throat. Son! My son! He shot up, his eyes locking onto me, and lunged, his hands closing around my neck. You little bitch. It was you. You killed my son. I'll kill you. I was being choked, my vision starting to black out. Luckily, the police were right there and pulled him off me. Otherwise, I have no doubt he would have actually killed me. I'll kill you. Give me back my son. I looked at his crazed face, as if I were really the one who had done it. Uncle, you can fool others, but don't fool yourself. You know better than anyone where that bomb came from, don't you? The words seemed to bring a sliver of sanity back to him, but he remained defiant. What are you talking about? It must have been you who planted it. At that, I took out my phone, pulled up a video, and played it for all to see. I forgot to tell you, Uncle. I was worried something might happen to the ancestral graves, so I installed a small camera nearby. I didn't expect to catch something so interesting. Mark froze, and it took him a long moment to process my words. You put a camera at the grave? I was worried about grave robbers. Everyone knew there was something suspicious about me installing a camera, but they couldn't say anything. It wasn't a matter for the police or the courts. I could install one wherever I wanted. The video showed Mark, in the dead of night, carrying a bag to the grave. He dug away the top layer of soil and laid the explosives inside. It had taken him a long time to collect enough for such a large bag. You wanted to kill me, but you ended up killing your own son, I said, my voice dripping with schadenfreude. Look what a mess you've made. With this concrete evidence, the police could finally take Mark away. Also, he tried to choke me to death today, I added, pointing to the red marks on my neck. I want to press charges. He needs to be held responsible. Even as he was being led away, Mark was still trying to argue. It wasn't me. The video is fake. It's fake. The police will determine whether it's fake or not, I said. He would undoubtedly face the full force of the law. You brat. You dare to frame your uncle? Have you no conscience? My aunt shrieked, grabbing my hand. There was no hint of pleading in her voice, only demand. Go tell the police it was all a misunderstanding. You two know perfectly well whether it was a misunderstanding or not, I replied coldly. Uncle Mark bombed the ancestral grave. You're responsible for getting it fixed. I took my mom's hand and walked out of the hospital. I used my scholarship money to buy a plot for my dad in the city, and had his ashes moved there. Under police interrogation, Mark finally confessed everything. He had intended to kill me, but to this day, he couldn't figure out why it was Kevin who got blown up instead. For the murder of his own son, he was sentenced to life in prison. My aunt held a funeral for Kevin, but their family's story was known to everyone, and no one was willing to attend. After the funeral and paying for the grave repairs, she left the city. No one knew where she went. One day, the police contacted me and said Mark wanted to see me. I took the opportunity and brought my acceptance letter with me to the prison. You switched the two graves, didn't you? He said, his voice raspy. That's why Kevin died and you're fine. I was surprised he had figured it out. But the room was full of cameras. I couldn't admit anything. What are you talking about, Uncle? I don't understand, I said innocently. But let me tell you some good news. Look, this is my acceptance letter from Harvard. I'll be starting college soon. Mark's eyes were bloodshot, his face contorted with rage as he stared at me. Stop playing dumb. Why wasn't it you who died? All of this should have been my Kevin's. Look at you getting confused again, I said with a pitying smile. Kevin only scored in the 200s. He couldn't get into Harvard. Even if he were still alive, his life would have been a mess just like yours. A useless waste. Mark lunged at the glass partition, trying to hit me, but the guards restrained him. The visit was quickly over. I walked out of the prison with my acceptance letter in hand, my head held high. From now on, only a bright, open road lay ahead of me. Let's clear our minds and move on to the next story. Amidst a clamor of voices, I slowly opened my eyes, realizing the sound was coming from outside my door. I struggled to my feet and walked to the entrance. My neighbor's front door was wide open, and a crowd of people sat outside in small groups. Some were burning paper offerings, others were just chatting. My neighbor's daughter, Lily, who looked to be about 5 or 6 years old at the time, a little sprout of a girl, was squatting in a corner, head down, burning paper money. I opened my door, poked my head out, and looked down the hallway. It was filled with funeral wreaths. Just then, someone came in from outside, and the sound of a mournful Suana horn drifted up from downstairs. It was then that I finally understood. I had been reborn on the very day my neighbors, the couple across the hall, had died. In my previous life, my neighbors were in a car accident. Both of them died on the spot, leaving behind their 8-year-old daughter, Lily, with no one to care for her. Ever since they had moved in, our two families had become the best of friends. Our daughters grew up together like sisters, inseparable. After my neighbors passed away, Lily's elderly relatives, who favored the boys in the family, refused to raise her. My own daughter, Hannah, was introverted, shy, and didn't talk much. Lily was practically her only friend. Understanding all this, I made a bold decision. I took Lily in and raised her as my own. I believed I did everything a mother should. I never played favorites. Whatever my daughter Hannah had, Lily got too. Losing her parents at such a young age made Lily more sensitive. For example, when I would take them to school, Lily would always squeeze in between me and my husband, her arms wrapped tightly around us, making it seem like we were the family of 3, while Hannah could only trail sadly behind. I just thought Lily was starved for affection and wanted to feel the warmth of a family, so I let her be. When they were in 3rd grade, I bought them a new desk. Hannah loved it, but Lily threw a fit and refused to use it, continuing to do her homework at the dining table. When I gently asked why, she said that in her heart, the desk was for Hannah. I was just letting her use it as an afterthought. It still belonged to Hannah. Hearing this broke my heart. It just reinforced how sensitive she was after losing her parents. So, I bought her a separate desk. She was happy for a few months, but then she asked for Hannah to move into the study. Our apartment was a 3-bedroom, with 2 large, south-facing rooms and 1 north-facing study. The study was where they did their homework. My husband and I had one of the south-facing rooms, and the other had a bunk bed where the 2 girls slept. To be fair, I even had them switch between the top and bottom bunks every week. Now Lily was telling me she didn't want to share a room with Hannah anymore. She always peeks at my homework. When I'm trying to think, she bothers me. She even read my diary once, and she snores at night. I can't sleep well at all. I don't want to share a room with her anymore. I knew Hannah's grades weren't as good as Lily's, so I believed Lily without question. But Hannah was my daughter, and I couldn't just move her into the study. After talking it over with my husband, we decided the girls would each get a south-facing bedroom, and we would move into the north-facing study. That issue was finally settled. Later, I pulled some strings to get them both into the same middle school. Because there was a steep hill on the way to the school, I bought each of them an electric bike, simple, inexpensive models that cost a couple $100s each. Not even a month into the school year, Hannah's bike was stolen. We went to check the security footage, and it showed a kid with bleached blonde hair picking the lock and riding off. The camera only caught his back, and there were so many kids like that from the nearby vocational schools, it was impossible to find him. Even if we did, we probably wouldn't get the bike back. It wasn't worth much, so I let it go. I bought Hannah a new bike in the latest color. This time, Lily was unhappy. She demanded I buy her a more high-end electric bike, one that cost over $1,000. In the past, I had given her almost everything she asked for. But this time, I refused. After all, her bike was only a month old, it worked perfectly fine, and she had picked the color herself. She didn't say anything, just walked out looking upset. A couple of days later, she told me her bike had been stolen too. I didn't believe her, of course. I took her to see the security footage. It showed her riding the bike into a blind spot. When she came out of the alley, the bike was gone. Lily insisted she had arranged to meet a friend she met online in the alley to trade celebrity cards, and as soon as she got there, her bike was snatched. As for the thief's appearance, she said she was too scared to remember anything. Her story sounded plausible enough, but to me, it was just the transparent ploy of a little girl who wanted a new bike. Still, she needed a bike. So I was planning to take her to buy one. Before we went, Hannah pulled me into a corner and told me that Lily had actually sold her bike for $200 to an older student at school. I patted Hannah's arm and said, "Let it go. We'll just buy her another one, something similar to yours. But if she loses this one, Mommy's not buying her another." We finished talking and came out, only to see Lily standing in the corner. Her head was down, but her gaze was fixed with a venomous glare on the spot where Hannah had just been standing. Her eyes were unfamiliar, as if laced with poison. I shivered involuntarily. Sensing my gaze, she immediately changed her expression, tilting her head and giving us a sweet smile. "Are you two chatting? I just got here." I nodded and acted like nothing had happened, taking her to buy a new bike. I thought that would be the end of it, but from that day on, something changed in Hannah. She became even more withdrawn and timid. Before, even if she didn't like talking to strangers, she always seemed happy. But now, she kept her head down when she went out. She never used to wear high-collared shirts, but now she always wore a turtleneck or a scarf. When I tried to give her a bath, she would always refuse, saying she was older now and needed her privacy. When I tried to talk to her, she rejected me again and again, refusing to say anything. Her grades plummeted. It was Lily who told me plenty. She said Hannah had an unlikable personality and no one at school wanted to play with her. She wouldn't ask the teacher when she didn't understand a problem. Everyone said she was a weirdo. If it weren't for Lily protecting her, she would have been beaten up by the punks from outside school long ago. Then, I accidentally found Hannah's records from a visit to a therapist. I was frantic. Thinking back on all her strange behavior, I was almost certain something terrible had happened to her. I didn't want to startle her, so I planned to talk to her teacher after school to get some information indirectly. But the teacher called me first, asking me to come to the school. When I arrived, she handed me a diary. It was Hannah's. In it, she had written, word for word, about her suffering and sadness. As I read it, my anger surged. In the diary, Lily had fabricated a lie. She told everyone that she was my husband's biological daughter, and that I had killed her mother, so I could marry him with Hannah in tow. She had spun this heart-wrenching drama, making it sound completely real. And the most terrifying part was Hannah believed her. She was young and timid and didn't dare say anything to me. And when she thought about all the times Lily acted cute, and I gave her everything she wanted, she became even more convinced of Lily's story. Her grades tanked. She wrote in her diary every day, pouring out her most tangled thoughts. When Lily found the diary, she took it to school and read it aloud to all the other students. At that dramatic middle school age, everyone believed it. They all laughed at Hannah, calling her an illegitimate child, the daughter of a homewrecker. Lily used this opportunity to get everyone to ostracize her, to have the school bullies torment her. Finally, the diary incident got so big that a teacher found out, confiscated it, and called me. I was furious. I rushed home, a fire of rage burning inside me, but the house was empty. I immediately turned back, searching the route between school and home. I searched everywhere they might have gone, but I couldn't find them. As darkness fell, my phone rang. Someone told me my daughter had fallen into the water and was no longer breathing. I was thunderstruck, on the verge of a complete breakdown. By the time I reached the hospital, Hannah was already covered with a white sheet. Beside her, Lily was sobbing, trembling uncontrollably, utterly heartbroken. I don't know why she suddenly jumped into the river. She was already in a bad mood, and she asked me to go for a walk with her today. Why would she suddenly do something like this? Mom, please don't blame Hannah. Maybe death is a release for her. But Mom, don't be too sad. You still have me. I'll be your daughter for the rest of your life. The fire inside me could no longer be contained. I slammed the diary into her face. Seeing the diary, she dropped the act. She stood there, biting her finger with an innocent look. I don't know. She fell in by herself. Maybe she was just depressed. I saw she was seeing a therapist recently. Maybe she was sick. It's normal for someone like that to want to end it, right? I went insane. I grabbed her by the neck and demanded, "Did you spread those rumors? Did you take her diary and show it to the other kids?" She just blinked her big, innocent eyes. She brought it to school herself. Wasn't paying attention and dropped it. I just helped her pick it up. If the other kids saw it and read it, what does that have to do with me? I stopped listening to her excuses and called the police. But there were no cameras where Hannah had drowned, and no witnesses. Losing my only child in middle age, I was heartbroken. I quit my job and spent every day at the cemetery with my daughter. Drifting through a haze of grief, I passed away a few years later. But thank God, He had mercy on me. I was reborn, back to a time when my daughter was still alive. This time, I would make this ungrateful snake pay the price she deserved. The mournful music was still playing outside. I found the sound grating, and was about to close the door when it was knocked on. I looked through the peephole and saw Lily, so I opened it. At this point, Lily was just an 8-year-old child, her face still full of innocence. But unlike the first time, her expression was flat, almost devoid of sadness. When I opened the door, she walked right in. "Auntie Sarah," she said. "Can you adopt me?" I was stunned. When I didn't answer, she continued, "My parents died in a car accident. From what I understand, I'll be getting a large insurance settlement. If you're willing to adopt me, the money is yours." I was completely floored. My mind flashed back to my previous life. After her parents died, she had dropped out of school and was sent by her grandparents to their home in the countryside. A month later, she secretly called me, sobbing hysterically. "Auntie, please save me. I don't want to stay here anymore. My parents' settlement money is with my grandparents, and they gave it all to my cousins. I have to do chores for them every day, and I get bullied at school. I don't want to be here another second." I could imagine with my toes what a young girl would face alone in the countryside. Her choked sobs and innocent voice broke my heart. "Don't you have an uncle?" I asked. "Can he take you in?" She whimpered. "My uncle wanted to, but my aunt is pregnant again, and she won't let him come see me." She begged me. "Auntie, can I come with you? Just give me a bite to eat. I'll be good to you for the rest of my life." In that past life, I had rushed to Lily's hometown, thinking it would be a struggle to get her out. After all, a girl could be married off for a hefty sum in the countryside. But to my surprise, I took her with me without any trouble at all. The only condition her grandparents made was that the settlement money had to stay with them, as a sort of redemption fee for Lily. In my past life, I had agreed without a second thought. I instinctively looked at Lily. Right now, her face was filled with impatience. Seeing me look at her, she quickly composed herself and pleaded again. "Auntie, my parents' settlement is 6 figures. If you're willing to raise me, I'll bring the money with me. Besides, Hannah and I are so close. If you raise me, I can keep her company, right?" Thinking of her grandparents' unreasonable behavior in my last life, I asked casually, "Will your grandparents agree to give me the settlement money?" Her face darkened, and she bit her lip fiercely. I'd rather burn that money than let them have a single cent of it. I was struck by how different she was from my past life. She pleaded again, "Please, Auntie. Just give me a place to stay. You can have the money. I'll never ask for it back." Never ask for it back? Thinking of her venomous scheming in my previous life, I couldn't help but shiver. Then I decisively refused. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. You have so many relatives, and your grandparents are still here. Legally, I can't adopt you." She started to cry, her sobs racking her small body. "My mom said they're all bad people, that they're all after my money and will hurt me. But you're different. You and my mom were so close. She told me to come to you if I ever needed help." I thought for a moment, then said with some Difficulty. Auntie Sarah's house only has 2 bedrooms, and the other room is a study where your uncle needs to work. I'm afraid we just don't have a place for you to stay. You could get a bunk bed, she said eagerly, then quickly added. I mean, I can share a room with Hannah. We can get a bunk bed. I can pay for it. She clasped her hands together, begging desperately. Please just let me stay for now. I thought for a moment, then opened the door wider. All right, you can come in for now. But let's be clear, we only have the north-facing study available. If you're willing, you can stay there for now. Can I stay with Hannah? She asked urgently. I shook my head. She likes to have her own space to do her own things. I was her mother after all. Her face fell, but she nodded. Okay. She turned to go home and pack her things. I stopped her. Lately my company has cut my salary, and your uncle is facing layoffs. So, I really don't have any extra money to support you. She gave me an extremely strange look, then said, Don't worry. I'll bring the settlement money. She made a lot of noise moving her things, which immediately drew her grandparents, who surrounded her and wouldn't let her leave. We don't care where you go, but you're not taking your parents' settlement money with you. Lily shook her head and pointed directly at me. I already gave the money to her. You can ask her for it. Then she gave me a look. I quickly denied it to the crowd. She certainly did not give me any money. Her family's apartment is rented. After her parents passed, she came to me to discuss living at my place. Impossible, her grandmother yelled, pointing at me. She's just a child. If she says she gave you the money, she gave it to you. With that, she plopped down on the floor and started wailing. My poor son. He's barely cold in his grave, and his home is already being taken over. She then pulled out her phone and started recording me. Everyone come and see. My son just died, and his neighbor is already trying to get her hands on his settlement money. What has this world come to? Who can you trust? I gave Lily a strange look. She was looking back at me with a pleading expression. Lily's grandmother was howling, and soon, a few men from her family surrounded me, pointing their fingers in my face and yelling. I just threw up my hands. I don't have any money. I only agreed to let her stay with me for now. She never gave me any money. You're an adult. You could have easily tricked her out of the money. A child wouldn't lie about something like this. They yelled back. Seeing that they wouldn't believe anything I said, I turned on my home security camera and played the footage for them. The camera had recorded everything Lily had said to me, including all the nasty things she'd said about her relatives. The faces of Lily's grandparents changed. Her grandmother's jaw tightened, and she raised her hand to slap Lily. But Lily, jutting out her neck, screamed first. You're all bad people. You ransacked my house and took everything. I was about to be homeless. What's wrong with me trying to find a new home? And this is my parents' settlement money. It's for my education and living expenses. What right do you have to take it? This made her grandmother even angrier. She slapped Lily hard across the face, screaming at her to shut up. Lily, now went wild, sitting on the floor and screaming and crying. The hallway instantly descended into chaos. In the end, Lily was dragged away by her family, her hair pulled tight. But her tantrum had been filmed by a neighbor from upstairs. Within a day, almost everyone in our building knew about her family's drama. Under the weight of online criticism, her uncles and aunts, though still eyeing the settlement money, didn't dare to be so blatant about it anymore. Under the supervision of a community worker, her family promised to stop trying to get their hands on Lily's money. Her grandparents handed over the bank card, and after arranging Lily's parents' funeral, they all went back to the countryside. Before leaving, her uncles pulled her into a corner and took turns trying to persuade her. That neighbor of yours is an outsider after all. Your money is safer with us than with her. We're family bound by blood. If you leave it with us, I'll only use a little for your cousins. How much could that be? The rest will still be yours. Besides, if we raise you well, it makes us look good too. We wouldn't mistreat you. Finally, her eldest uncle patted her on the shoulder. We're not forcing you now. Go back and think about it. Who's really your family? After a while, when you've calmed down, I'll come find you and take you out for a nice dinner. Lily spent the whole time boredly kicking at a pebble, as if she hadn't heard a word. Seeing that she was unresponsive, they just glared at her and left. Once the crowd at the door had dispersed, she started banging on my door again. She knocked until it was almost dark, and I finally opened it. Her face was frantic. Before she could speak, I beat her to the punch. Why did you lie that day, and tell everyone you gave the money to me? You know what those people are like. If I didn't have a security camera, Your family would have beaten me to a pulp by now. I started to push her out. You should just go. If your family finds out you're staying here, they'll definitely come looking for trouble with me. Her eyes instantly turned red, and soon she was sobbing uncontrollably. Auntie, I had no choice that day. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just want to live with you. I still didn't agree. I have a daughter too. I don't want to get involved in your family's mess. Since you have money, you should take care of yourself, or find a kind aunt and uncle to adopt you. I was about to close the door, but she desperately held it open. But how could a 7 or 8-year-old child's strength compare to an adult's? Just as the door was about to close, she suddenly screamed, Auntie, please take me in. I know you're a kind person. Can you bear to see me an orphan, living all by myself? Besides, I know things about the future. If you're willing to raise me, I can help you make a lot of money. I was stunned for a second. Then I understood. She was reborn too. Compared to the timid, shy girl who first came to my house in my past life. It was no wonder this version of her was sticking to me like glue. Now I finally understood where her maturity and calmness came from. Seeing me pause, she took the opportunity to squeeze inside and shove a bank card into my hand. The community worker helped me get a new card. She split my parents' settlement into 6 different cards. This is one of them. It's enough for you to raise me. Then she pleaded loudly. Auntie, I told the community worker you were willing to raise me. That's why she gave me this card. I'm begging you, please raise me. Her shouting at my door like. This was not a solution. I was silent for a moment, then took her to check the balance on the card. 5 figures. It was indeed enough to support her for a long time. As she requested, I used her card to pay her school tuition. And just like in her past life when she first came to my house, she obediently moved into the north-facing study. During this time, she was well-behaved, always staying within my sight. She went to and from school with Hannah every day. After a month, she came to me. Auntie, I don't want to live in the study anymore. It's damp and cold. My mom said girls shouldn't live in north-facing bedrooms. And I asked Hannah, she's willing to live with me. She shook my arm, acting cute. Auntie, please let me share a room with Hannah. We can get a bigger bed. I can pay for it. I thought for a moment. Okay, let me get things cleaned up. Wait for my word. She nodded vigorously, her eyes shining with excitement. Thank you, Auntie. A week later, I told her the room was ready. Her eyes lit up. She packed her things at lightning speed and started dragging her suitcase towards Hannah's room. I stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Auntie might not have been clear. You're not moving into Hannah's room. Hannah likes her privacy, and I don't want to disturb her. I've been thinking about this seriously for the past few days. After all, you're not my daughter and it's not right for us to always live together like this. And I can't legally adopt you. So, I went ahead and rented the apartment downstairs for you. It even has a yard. It's close so I can check on you when I have time, and it's convenient for Hannah to visit you. What? She was dumbfounded. Auntie, you weren't like this before. You let me live with Hannah before, remember? She stared at me, as if trying to find a clue on my face. I pretended to think for a moment, then asked blankly. Are you talking about when you were 3? Your parents were still alive then and you'd only stay over for a day. Of course Hannah was happy, but sleeping in the same room every day is a different story. I squatted down and said patiently, Lily, I wanted to adopt you too, but I asked a lot of friends and family, and no one advised me to. So it's better if we live separately. But don't worry. I patted her shoulder. I can visit you anytime. I specially rented a place with a yard for you. If you get bored, Hannah can come down and play with you. No, I don't want to, she wailed, sitting on the floor. I want to be with Hannah. I'm an 8-year-old kid. How am I supposed to live by myself? She looked up at me with teary eyes. I told everyone online that I would be living with you. They're all calling you the most beautiful neighbor. If they find out you kicked me out, what will they think of you? I smiled. I was struggling with this too, so I posted about it online. I took out my phone and showed her the video. Most people thought I shouldn't adopt you. The few who supported it were criticized for not understanding the reality of the situation. So I thought it through and rented a place for you. Her face went pale, and she kept muttering, No, no. I sat down next to her patiently and stroked her hair. The netizens are right. Unless it happens to them, they can't understand. Raising a child is not like raising a pet. You're a person and a girl. Raising you would take a lot of energy. And as you can see, I'm already busy with work and taking care of Hannah. But Hannah and I can take care of each other, she argued. No. You're both minors. I'd be responsible. And after you made such a big scene, everyone is watching. I don't want to live under a microscope. This whole thing had nothing to do with me in the first place. So for everyone's sake, you should just live downstairs. I gave her a gentle smile. I want a peaceful life too. But don't worry, I will take care of you. Putting you downstairs is for a reason. She forced a smile that was uglier than a cry. Then can you tell everyone we're living separately, but actually let me live with Hannah? No, I said, shaking my head. The apartment was rented with your card. Since I used your card, I have to report it to the community office. Now they all know. They'll come by to check on you every now and then. If they find out, how can you expect them to help you if you ever run into trouble in the future? With my urging, she pouted and reluctantly left. After she had been living downstairs for 2 months and everything had settled down, I used an anonymous number to send a message to her grandmother. Your granddaughter is now living separately from the neighbor. How could you be so heartless? You, as her grandparents, don't even care about her, and you expect a stranger to? That's ridiculous. Her grandparents had thought I would protect her, so they hadn't dared to come around. Now that they knew she was living alone, her uncle showed up the very next morning. When Hannah and I came back from outside, I heard crying and the sound of things being smashed coming from the first floor. A man's voice boomed from inside. You little bitch, you treat me like an outsider, huh? Well, do they treat you like family? You think they're your family, but they see you as a burden. Where's the money? Give me the money. When your cousin finishes his studies, he won't forget you. Lily was crying and screaming. I could faintly hear her say, Auntie Sarah isn't like that. If it weren't for you, she would have taken me in. Bullshit. A sharp slap echoed, followed by her uncle's gritted teeth. You really think you're some kind of treasure? She has her own daughter. What does she need you for? I'm telling you, even if she's nice to you, it's only for your money. Where's the money? Lily was wailing. I couldn't make out what she was saying. Hannah, beside me, tugged on my sleeve. Mom, is something happening to Lily? Should we go in and help her? I shook my head. Disapprovingly. Remember this. In this world, don't be a bleeding heart. Everyone has their own karma. We shouldn't rashly interfere in someone else's fate. I smiled. If you end up getting yourself into trouble, that would be foolish. She nodded, seeming to understand, but then asked, But aren't we good friends? Shouldn't good friends help each other? I stroked her head and smiled. This is their family business. We shouldn't get involved. She didn't say any more. The sound of things being thrown and Lily's screams from the first-floor apartment were especially loud. Many neighbors heard it. Some of them recognized Lily's relatives, and just stood outside watching the show. In the end, no one went in. After a long while, a few men came out of her apartment. Her uncle was holding a thin card, his mood surprisingly pleasant. Your grandmother misses you, he said. You should come home for a visit when you have time. As for this money, I'm just borrowing it for your cousin for. Now, when he's successful, it'll still be yours. He gestured to the men behind him, and they left. After they were gone, Lily noticed me. Auntie. She came over, her head down. They took my money. I comforted her. It's okay. You still have some money with me. It's enough to feed you. I'm not worried about that, she said, shaking her head. The community worker split my money into several cards. My uncle will soon find out that card only has $2,000 on it. They'll be back. I quickly asked her. So have you thought about where to put the rest of the money? She nodded. I took out some cash and hid it under my bed. They probably won't find it. I'm just worried they'll come back. I'm just a girl. If they hit me, I definitely can't fight back. She looked up at me. Auntie, can I move in with you? I instinctively pulled Hannah into my arms, then forced a smile. Your family is too aggressive. I'm scared too. You understand, right? She nodded, a thoughtful look on her face. Money is a curse. It's not the thief you fear, but the one who's always thinking about it. I need to figure out what to do with this money. Not long after, her uncle did indeed come back. But Lily had anticipated this, and installed a security camera at her door beforehand. She had also given her number to a girl from the community office who lived nearby. As soon as her uncle's family showed up, she had the girl bring people to block them outside. They told her uncle that Lily's card was with the community, and he couldn't get it. After yelling at the door for a while to no avail, her uncle left in a huff. A year later, I used an anonymous card to send another message to her family. Her money isn't with the community. She took out cash and hid it under her bed. I sent the message in the morning. They were fast. They rushed from the countryside and arrived by noon. They brought a locksmith with them. Lily was at school. The men were in her apartment for a short time. Before they left, seeing their gleeful backs, I figured they had succeeded. Lily didn't realize the money was gone until 3 months later. She immediately called the police, but because so much time had passed and the locksmith had dismantled the security camera, there was no evidence, and the police couldn't do anything. Lily knew who did it, of course, but she didn't dare confront them. She could only swallow the loss. That evening Lily came to me. "Auntie, can you do me a favor?" "What is it?" I asked. "The money I have on me is too obvious," she said. "Can you help me buy an apartment in the West End? I have $40,000 on me right now. Half of that, $20,000, is enough to buy a one-bedroom." I asked her. "The West End is mostly cemeteries. Why do you want to buy there?" She said, "Do you remember what I told you? I have memories of the future. The West End is going to become a wealthy district." She was right. 10 years later, after extensive redevelopment, the area was fully covered by subway lines, and high-end shopping malls and prestigious schools moved in. Overnight, the West End transformed from a rural area into a high-end residential district. "What about the other half of the money?" I asked. She answered honestly, "I'll split it into several cards again. No more cash at home this time. If they take my cards, I can report them to the police for burglary. After all, there are withdrawal records." She then asked me, "Auntie, can I keep the cards at your place?" "No," I said without hesitation. She lowered her eyes. "Then I'll just have to keep them at home. I have a toy piggy bank that I've always kept in the living room. No one has ever touched it. They probably won't suspect it. I'll hide the cards there." I nodded. 6 months later, I used an anonymous number to send a message to her uncle. She hid her cards in the piggy bank in the living room. A few days later, her grandmother came. As soon as she walked in, she grabbed Lily and started crying about how hard her life had been these past few years and how much she missed her. She said Lily's grandfather was sick and begged her to take out the money. Lily was unmoved, just repeating that she had no money. Her grandmother then collapsed on the floor. Seeing that Lily was still unmoved, her grandmother's face changed, and she started rummaging through the apartment. At first Lily was calm, but when she saw her grandmother ransacking the living room, and then reaching for her piggy bank, she panicked. "What are you doing?" "What am I doing? I'm looking for money." Lily rushed over, and in the struggle, the piggy bank smashed on the floor. The cards were exposed. Lily tried to grab them, but she was still just a child. Her grandmother was faster, lunging forward and snatching the cards. Lily was frantic. "What are you doing? That's my money. If you don't give it back, I'm calling the police." "Go ahead, call them," her grandmother sneered, clutching the cards. "I've already checked. I'm your legal guardian. This is a family matter. And you opened the door for me yourself. I didn't break in. The police can't do anything. Your grandfather is on his deathbed. What's wrong with me taking some of your money to show some filial piety?" After saying this, her grandmother left. That night, Lily came to me crying. I comforted her. "It's okay. It's just $5,000. It's gone, it's gone." To distract her, I pulled out a stack of papers from behind my back. "I went to the West End today and looked at several complexes. This Lido Apartments complex is pretty good. It's in a small town, so the price isn't high. $20,000 can get you a renovated one-bedroom." "Lido Apartments?" She stopped crying, her eyes lighting up. "You mean the Lido Apartments at 48 West End Street?" I wasn't surprised that she knew the address so well, even though she'd never been there. "I checked it out today. The building is relatively new. Even in 10 years it won't be too old." "Okay," she nodded repeatedly. "I want that one. Auntie, please take me to buy it this weekend." After settling on buying the apartment, she was no longer sad. She hummed a little tune as she left. She knew that the West End property would increase in value tenfold in 10 years. The money her relatives had taken was nothing compared to the soaring property prices. She was happy, but I was even happier. In my past life, after my daughter's accident, I was so consumed by grief that I didn't continue to raise her. In high school, with no one to support her, she had to work part-time while studying. Eventually, she couldn't keep up, and her grades plummeted. She barely managed to get into a third-tier college. With no money for a private university, she went to a community college out of state. So her knowledge of the West End's development was superficial. She didn't know that while the West End would indeed undergo massive demolition in 10 years, an ancient tomb would be discovered under the Lido apartments during the process. As a result, 10 years later, the Lido apartments would become the only urban village in the West End never to be demolished. The next day, I took her to buy the apartment. She was greedy, even eyeing the larger 3-bedroom next door, which would cost $30,000. According to the West End demolition compensation plan, that one apartment could be exchanged for 3 new ones, each worth over $1 million, enough for her to live comfortably for the rest of her life. She gleefully paid the money and completed the transfer. Perhaps buying the apartment and getting a major task done made her feel closer to me again. During this time, she started coming to our house frequently to ask about Hannah's middle school admission. I told her I planned to enroll Hannah in a well-known private middle school nearby, and was already pulling strings to get her in. That school was one of the best in the city, full of rich kids. If she could get into their social circle, even the loose change from their pockets would be enough to cover her living expenses for a month. Not to mention the social circles she would be exposed to later would be a whole level up. In her past life, she had wanted to go to that middle school. She had the grades, but because she had no money she couldn't. Now hearing me say this, her eyes lit up. She quickly asked me how to apply. I told her that the tuition alone for this school was nearly $10,000 a year, not to mention room and board, uniforms and living expenses. And attending this school required living on campus. Hearing this, she immediately begged me to help her apply too. Her grades were much better than Hannah's. With connections, she would get in much more easily than Hannah. She gave me her bank card and told me to use it as I saw fit. At this point, she only had $9,000 left on her card, including the cash she had hidden at home. She had at most $10,000 or $20,000. This was only enough for 2 years of tuition. I asked her, "What about living expenses and tuition after you get in?" She told me not to worry about it. "Once I'm in school, I'll live on campus. At worst, I'll rent out my apartment in the West End. That'll give me some income every year. And since I'm getting into a prestigious school, I'll be able to earn money somehow." I nodded and took her card. Once I took it, she only had $10,000 left at home. She looked at me. "Where do you think I should put this money?" I thought for a moment. "I think you should put it in the piggy bank in the living room. They're not going to look in the same place twice. And your uncle and his family know you bought an apartment, so they probably think you don't have any money left. You should be able to live in peace for a while." She nodded and did as I said. When she was in the second half of 6th grade, I brought her good news. "Your application has been submitted to the school's dean of admissions. They think you're very impressive and have agreed to accept you, but you'll have to pay the full tuition." She jumped up in excitement, practically leaping onto me with a cheer. "Oh my God, Auntie, thank you so much. With a school this good, my future is set, right?" I patted her head. "Of course you won't have to worry." "What about Hannah?" she asked. I nodded. "She's going to that school too." "That's great. That's great," she clapped and squealed. A few months later, after the middle school entrance exams, the acceptance letter from the private middle school arrived. Things were finally set in stone. Lily was overjoyed, as if she could see her bright future right in front of her. But she was happy too soon. I didn't know any dean of admissions and hadn't found any connections. I had simply given Lily's application to an agent who specialized in school admissions. The agent charged a $9,000 fee, and the receipts were all legitimate. No matter how much Lily looked into it later, she would never be able to trace it back to me. Besides this, she probably had about $10,000 left. These past few years, Lily had been living too comfortably. With the acceptance letter and the apartment, it never even occurred to her that her grandmother was still after her money. So when the security camera on her front door broke, she didn't even bother to fix it. When her grandmother started banging on her door in the middle of the night, I heard a scream, followed by Lily's panicked shouts. "What are you doing here? Why are you here again? I told you I don't have any money." Through the floor, I couldn't hear what her grandmother was saying. Hannah woke up too and tried to go outside to see. I grabbed her and closed the door. "From now on, you and Lily are no longer friends," I told her. "If you see her in the future, stay as far away as possible. Everything Mommy is doing right now is to help you." She was still anxious to go out. I locked the door, closed the window, and completely shut out the noise from outside. In the morning, Lily was knocking on our door. Through the peephole, I saw her lip was cut, a large bruise on her face, and her eyes were swollen from crying. She knocked relentlessly until I had my husband take Hannah to her room. Then I opened the door. I was still thinking about how to comfort her when she looked straight at me, her eyes cold and chilling. She stared at me until I asked, "What's wrong?" She finally managed a sinister smile. "Auntie, how do you think my grandma knew to grab the piggy bank in my living room the moment she walked in today? Did someone tell her where I kept my card?" My heart skipped a beat, but I feigned confusion. "Maybe she just thought you'd put it there again." She let out a low, eerie laugh. "Auntie, I've known something was wrong for a while. Every time I tell you where I put my money, my uncle somehow finds it. I haven't told anyone else but you. So was it you?" Before I could speak, she laughed again, cutting me off. "You'll say it's all a coincidence, right? But you don't know, do you? My grandma is old and doesn't have the habit of deleting text messages. When she came to see me today, I secretly took her phone and checked her messages. There were indeed a few anonymous messages, all from the same number. I checked the activation address for that number. It's from a phone store right near our house." She leaned against my doorframe, tilting her head. "Auntie, why did you do this? If I'm not mistaken, you're reborn too, right?" She put a finger to her lips in a shushing gesture. "I know you must be cursing me, calling me an ungrateful snake. But I'm not convinced. In our past life I tried so hard to be your daughter, but you always put Hannah first. Why should I always be second to her? I'm prettier than her, I'm a better student. Just because I don't have a mother? Did I ask for my parents to die?" She smiled. So she deserved to die. She was an extra, a weak and timid person. I got everyone to ostracize her, and she couldn't take it. What's the point of someone like that being alive? Since she was being so direct, I just asked her. "You suspected me from the beginning, so why did you still tell me everything?" She laughed. "No, Auntie. At first, I really wanted to be your daughter. When you refused to let me live with Hannah, I thought it was because I had posted the video of my grandma online, and you were afraid of getting involved. I even felt guilty for a while. It wasn't until my uncle came the second time that I started to suspect you. The little bit of money my grandma and uncle took from me was nothing. It was worth it to spend a little money to test if you were reborn. Besides, even though I never trusted you, you were the only person I could use. Buying the apartment, getting into middle school, I needed you for all of that. But now that's all done. From now on, I don't need you anymore. As for Hannah, once she's in middle school and living on campus, what can you do to help her? She may have your love and a complete family, but she's terrible at dealing with people. I'll just have to say a few words, and she'll be an outcast." It seemed she was thinking about her past life, and she started to get cocky. I splashed cold water on her. "Sorry to disappoint you, but Hannah wasn't accepted to that school. I found a public middle school for her. Our whole family is moving there." She froze as if turned to stone, completely stunned. I looked at her and couldn't help but sneer. "Admissions are all closed now. I'm afraid the only option you have is that private middle school." She didn't speak, just stared at me, her body trembling slightly. After a long time, she suddenly laughed. "Fine. So we're not together. I'm just missing a lackey. But in this life, I have a house and money." "Yes," I said, following her. "Lead. Your house is indeed the only asset you managed to get with your future knowledge. As for the money, you lied about the settlement amount from the beginning, didn't you? If I'm not mistaken, you should have about $30,000 left at home, right? Enough to get you through middle school." "What?" She suddenly widened her eyes. "How do you know I have that much money?" I shrugged. "I'm the one who rented the apartment for you. Did it never occur to you that I would install a security camera?" I shrugged again. "While we've been talking, your money has already been taken. You know I'm always keeping them updated on you." "What?" She was completely dumbfounded. Then in a panic, she bolted out the door. While she was distracted, I quickly packed up the rest of our things, tucked the house key under the doormat, and left with Hannah. I had already listed the apartment with a real estate agent, who sold it at a low price. With that money, I also bought an apartment in the West End, the one that would actually be demolished and redeveloped into a prime location. Then, with my savings and a loan, I bought a small 2-bedroom apartment in a good school district. It wasn't big, but it was enough for our family of 3. I didn't hear about Lily again until a few days later. Her deadbeat cousin from the countryside had lost a lot of money gambling, and was desperate to pay off his debts. When I told them that Lily had lied about the settlement amount, and still had over $30,000 at home, they came quickly. By the time Lily rushed home, they had just found the bank cards. Lily had a huge fight with them, threatening to report them for burglary if they took the money. In the ensuing struggle, Her cousin knocked her out. Fearing repercussions, he set the house on fire. Fortunately, Lily lived on the first floor. The fire got so big that neighbors noticed and called 911. When they realized Lily was inside, they worked together to pull her out. Her bank cards ended up in the hands of her uncles, who split the money. Since the amount on each card was small, they withdrew all the money within a couple of days. While she was in the hospital, Lily once again used social media to her advantage, posting about what had happened. Under public pressure, her uncle finally showed up. He posted a video clarifying that what Lily had said was all lies. He claimed they were just afraid she was too young and would be scammed, so they took her money and bought her a financial insurance policy. When she turned 18, she would receive a fixed monthly payment, enough to cover her college living expenses. He showed the policy on camera, and it did indeed have Lily's name on it. As for the fire, her cousins had covered their tracks perfectly. Combined with the dry weather and the fact that old buildings do have a risk of fire, the case was closed. Under pressure from netizens, Lily's uncle paid her medical bills and her first year of tuition. His story was convincing, the tuition was paid, and the policy was real. The internet believed him, and the matter was dropped. But as soon as the heat was off, her uncle canceled the policy. There was a penalty for early cancellation, but her uncle took the remaining money, and the family disappeared. Lily now didn't even have enough money to finish middle school. She borrowed from every platform she could find and cried and pleaded online. With the help of netizens, she finally scraped together enough to finish her second year of middle school. When she started school, she initially tried to pretend to be a rich girl to get into the popular crowd, but she was quickly exposed. The other kids used the videos of her crying and begging online to mock her every day. Unwilling to give up, she started hanging out with the older students and bullying the younger girls. But they were just using her as a pawn. When trouble started, they all threw her under the bus. Before the first semester was even over, she had a disciplinary mark on her record. At this point, she was completely ostracized by all her classmates. She rented out her apartment in the West End. The 3 years of rent were only enough to cover her third year of tuition. Her living expenses were still up in the air. At her most desperate moment, a boy from outside the school approached her. He offered to be her boyfriend and said he would cover her middle school living expenses and all 3 years of high school tuition. After some hesitation, Lily agreed. In her second year of middle school, they rented an apartment near the school and lived together. The boy, as he had promised, gave her money every month. She finally made it through middle school. In high school, the boy went to an international program and dumped her. She didn't know that I had found this boy. The price for supporting her was the money from the card Lily had once given me to help her with school admissions. The agent had given me a kickback. I used this money in the boy's name to give her living expenses, buy her fake luxury goods, and make her fall in love, lose her ambition. She thought this boy was her salvation, but he was actually dragging her into an abyss. After getting used to a life of being supported and surrounded by luxury for over a year, she started looking for her next target in high school. She got pregnant, had an abortion, got pregnant again, had another abortion. She barely managed to finish high school, but with all the dating and abortions, her mind was no longer on her studies. Her grades plummeted. She couldn't even get into a public community college. Considering the tuition for a private college, she thought about selling her apartment. But the area was originally rural and surrounded by cemeteries. No one wanted to buy it. With no other options, she planned to find another target. Just then, news broke that the West End was going to be demolished. The entire area was going to be covered by subway lines. She was finally excited. But not 2 weeks later, a piece of news hit her like a ton of bricks. The original plan was to demolish the Lido apartments first, but during the survey, experts discovered an ancient tomb. This meant that almost every other complex in the West End could be demolished, except hers. Her only hope had been to use her 3-bedroom apartment to turn her life around. The dream of wealth she had held onto for years instantly turned to dust. She started frantically trying to sell her apartment, listing it online for half its original price. But after a few years, the building had gotten old, and everyone knew it would never be demolished. No matter how low she set the price, no one was interested. She tried to find me, but I had moved long ago. The properties I had bought using my knowledge of the past were all demolished. I used the compensation money to buy a luxury apartment. Hannah got into her dream university. I bought a residence near the school to be close to her. She was no longer as introverted as she had been in her past life. When she had free time, we would travel together. She was much more cheerful and sunny. The last time I saw Lily was when I was returning from a trip with Hannah. We ran into her at a fast food restaurant near the airport. She was sitting there, picking up and eating the leftovers from other customers' trays, gobbling them down like she hadn't eaten in a long time. The moment she saw me, we both froze. The next second, she acted as if nothing had happened and started frantically stuffing more food into her mouth. Hannah told me she had heard from a former classmate that Lily had stopped studying after high school. She went from one boyfriend to another and found a job as a hotel maid. She would approach any man who booked a premium suite or looked rich. She was pretty, and her efforts paid off. She managed to hook a rich heir. But the heir was mysterious. He wouldn't let her come to his company, wouldn't introduce her to his parents or friends, and never mention marriage. She got anxious, secretly poked holes in the condoms, got pregnant, and went to his house to demand marriage. But when she secretly followed the heir home, she discovered that all his brand name clothes were fake. He was a pig butchering scammer. He had only been interested in her because she was pretty and had an apartment in an urban village, where he could live if his scams ever failed. When she found out, Lily had a complete breakdown. She wanted to leave, but the doctor told her if she had another abortion, she wouldn't be able to have children in the future. Not wanting to lose her fertility, she decided to have the baby. But during a prenatal checkup, she found out she had contracted HIV from the fake heir. After being exposed, the fake heir completely disregarded her, not even giving her money for living expenses. The only jobs she could find were in bars or as a waitress. The money she earned each month wasn't even enough to eat. So she had to save her money for medicine and rely on eating leftovers at fast food restaurants. Now she had finally had her fill. She rushed over, grabbing at me, wanting to beg for something. A quick-eyed employee rushed over and shooed her away like a beggar. She was grabbed and struggled wildly as she was dragged out of the restaurant, mumbling something. Her words went from begging to cursing. Her face contorted in a dark, twisted grimace. I took Hannah's hand and walked out the other side of the restaurant. The sound of her curses disappeared the moment the door closed behind me. I had finally found peace from the last life's burdens.